Welcome back to Music Theory Logic. Andrew here, and today is another music theory breakdown where I do my best to recreate popular songs note by note without sampling any audio so that I can show you where these notes come from and ideally not get these videos banned. Today we're talking about the lead single off of Beyonce's newest album, Renaissance, which by the time you're seeing this is probably going to be all over the world, and we're going to be talking about Break My Soul. So let's go ahead into the track. Now, this is a really interesting one. This was the lead single, came out in June off the album, and it really marks a different direction of Beyonce's music. This feels very, very much like house music. It doesn't just feel like house music, but it feels like sort of like an older house music vibe than like current EDM house or EDM house subgenres from the last like 10 or 15 years. I'm going to go ahead and play this this recreation. Again, you're not hearing any audio from the original song. I have a vocal pad in here that has the notes that Beyonce sings before the verse because those notes are important for us to talk about. If you find this helpful, you would help me out a lot by subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, here is my rendition of Break My Soul. Cool. And again, since I don't have any vocals on this, I figured aside from the vocal pad, I don't have, we wouldn't play like the entire track because that might get you kind of bored. This basically gives you everything you hear in the track aside from the intro, which again is a sample. Let's go ahead into the music theory. So music theory is a fancy way of saying the kind of the chemistry of music or how music works, why it works, or where the notes come from. Most music that sounds good to you or your friends is written using a musical scale. The most common scales are major and minor scales, and this song is in a minor key. We're in the key of G sharp minor. Now, G sharp minor is kind of a complicated key because we have lots of sharps or lots of black keys. G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, and G sharp. Luckily, we call those notes what we would expect to, but there's a lot of black keys. So if you by any chance happen to have my music theory text, I link below all these videos, but it's a really, really simple music theory text or method. And one of my main theories is in music theory class, like in college or outside of the computer, we have to learn circle of fifths and lots of things to memorize different notes and different keys. And with the computer, you could really just remember A minor has all the white keys, and then you could drag those notes down from A to G sharp, and you have G sharp minor. Sounds like this. Cool. Let's turn this up and turn off our metronome. All right, cool. Now this song basically has two chords. We hear a C sharp minor chord. That would be a 4 chord. Another way of saying that is it's built off the 4th note from our key. And then we get the 1 chord, a G sharp minor. Now, an interesting thing about the notes that happen on this 1 chord is we actually get an extended harmony. So we also hear this note, D sharp, in the synth. And if I add that to the chord, pretty sounding chord, that would be called a C sharp minor 9 chord. All right, and since this isn't played by the chord instrument, I just kind of like as a side note. So let's go through the various layers. This song really sounds like sort of an old school house music track. It is at 117 beats per minute. We get 4 on the floor, so rhythmically, the kick drum is hitting every quarter note. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is really common in all styles and subgenres of house music, both new and old. We get an offbeat hi-hat, so that's happening on every other eighth note, so the second eighth note. And so those two layers sound like this. Now I added a closed hi-hat every other one. It kind of gives it a little dimension to it. So not every single one of those hi-hat hits feels the same. So there's another sample every other hit. And then finally we get a clap. This happens at the hook of the song, the biggest section, and the clap is a standard backbeat on beat 2 and beat 4. If I play that, it sounds like this. Now, a long time ago, there was a meme video, perhaps even before the term meme was widely used, but basically for this kind of music, boots in, cats in, boots in, cats in, and that is, this is literally that kind of instrumental. So if we add our main synth line in, our main synth has some interesting rhythms. It's only 2 notes, so it's going from E flat down to G sharp, back to E flat, down to G sharp, and the rhythmic phrase is happening every quarter note, so it's identical the second time. I have slightly different velocities, again, to give it more dimension, so these look like different colors, but it is the same rhythms and the same notes. So rhythmically, we're on beat 1, beat 2, the last 2 16th notes after beat 2, so if I'm counting 1 E and 2 E and is where those would come. All right, then we go down to G sharp, and we hit that on a syncopated note, basically, so the second eighth note after beat 3. So if we're counting eighth notes, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and right there. Cool, and then we get the 2 16th notes at the end of beat 4, and again, that all repeats. If we add that with the kick drum and watch it, it sounds like this. Now, on a side note, I didn't do a breakout video on the actual sound, but I suppose I can cover it right now. I went to Basic Shapes on oscillator A, got this square waveform. Apology to you synth purists that if I'm saying the terminology wrong. It's going through a dimension expander with ever so subtly. It's getting a very tiny bit of reverb, and I'm low pass filtering it, so cutting out some of the high harmonics. Cool. If I add in let's talk about the chord section next, and we hear that on its own first with our drums and looking at it. So the notes are going G sharp, so the 1, down to the minor 7, F sharp, down to the 1 chord, so G sharp minor. All right, rhythmically, this is very similar to what the synth was doing. So when we first hear this, it's just piano, and then we eventually get both of them at the same time, and since they're similar timing, they work together. So the pickup, or what's happening before the downbeat right here, is going G sharp on the 8th note after beat 3, so 3 and then the second 16th note, so E, as we would say it, or 4E. All right, again, G sharp, F sharp. Then down to our 1 chord, G sharp minor. Then that literally repeats. That with our kick drum sounds like this. Cool, and that again is a really common theme in there. There's a lot of more sort of like a human feel to that, and I believe that's because of where the sample came from. So that's real playing, and then taken from a tape recording and manipulated, probably by an MPC if I had to guess. But anyway, I believe these to be the right notes, and that gives us enough to talk about the music theory. So Beyonce, the first time we hear her voice on this song, she's singing the ahs, basically, and the note she sings is our 5 from G sharp, so the D sharp up to the 1, then 3, then 4, then 5, 7, 5, 4, 3, 7, 5, 4, 3, 5, 1. Cool. And an interesting thing about these notes, aside from so we don't find our 6th scale degree and we don't find our 2nd scale degree. there's a really special scale, which is called minor pentatonic, or we could just say pentatonic scales. Pentatonic, that word, just like pentagon, is built on 5 different notes. And the 5 notes are the 1, 3, 4, 5, 7 from any key, major or minor. And that's a really, really common scale. Lots and lots of rock and roll and lots of popular music is written with pentatonic scales. So she's outlining this G sharp minor pentatonic. It sort of sets the key of the song, since up to that point we were really only hearing that synth lead, which is again 1 note at a time. All right, so then we hear both of those channels together. So if we look at them together, let's see here. Move it up there. Well, I don't know. I can't get the view proper, but in essence, when the synth is doing that, and we go down to our chord, we get our G sharp minor again. So this right here, there's not really a chord happening, but I do have this layer down here, which I muted. Sometimes the chord progression that you'll find if you look this up on Ultimate Guitar, I know because I do that a lot as a shortcut or helping me to find all this stuff. They have a C sharp minor chord followed by the G sharp. Those are the chords that I had at the very beginning. So again, I would really call it a C sharp minor 9 chord because of the E flat that happens on the top. All right, cool. So that covers everything aside from the bass. The bass is quite simple. It's again a Serum patch. It's just a sub oscillator with compression going on. And the notes are mostly just hitting R1. It's timed with the kick drum. This is really common for house music. Like the simplest bass lines you can have are basically just doubling up the kick drum with the sub. So this is all G sharp, the 4, and then we hit this C sharp, or these 4 notes are all the 1 chord, the 1 note, so G sharp, and then up to our 4th scale degree. If we listen to, let's get rid of the 2 melodic sections. Let's hear our bass with our kick and cymbals. Cool, and then everything together with our big section sounds like this. Cool. So once again, without the vocals, it's not the most exciting thing going on in the world, but it's a really simple thing for us to understand. Luckily, since it's such a complicated key, G sharp minor, there's limited chords and stuff to talk about. If you have any questions on this, feel free to leave a comment. If I got any notes wrong, let me know. I aim to get these all accurate, but I am merely a human being with human ears, and I do make mistakes. And in the interest of time and keeping this in line with my professional schedule, I really try to do these in limited time frames so that I can keep content coming out for you and continuing to make a living with my teaching and production stuff. So let's go back into our main view. Once again, thank you for hanging out. If you found that helpful, you would help me out a lot by subscribing to the channel. Music isn't only about the theory, but knowing some scales and chords can really help us to understand the music we like, the music we've made in the past, and perhaps how to fill in or add to the music we make in the future. So go have fun making music. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you next time. Cheers.